right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are all over the world. Thank you very much for joining us today for our Infragistics Ultimate 26.1 webinar. So today, what I'm here to talk about is what we did over the past 6 months. So at the end of last year, when I was doing a similar webinar, but for 25.2, I ended on a note that we have been heavily invested into creating tools for AI ecosystems. And as you can guess, today I'm going to talk a lot about this, but it's not only that. So my name is Konstantin Dinev. I'm Director of Product Development at Infragistics, and I'm here today to tell you about, well, almost everything that we did over the past 6 months, because there is a lot of things. And by the way, if I had to do a PowerPoint slide per thing that we did, I probably wouldn't be fitting this into 45 minutes. I probably would need hours of your time to basically be able to fit everything. Anyway, so I'm going to focus on three pillars today that we've been focusing on for 26.1 and that we've been spreading out different things in different products across different releases over the last 6 months. But basically today I'm going to summarize a lot of what we did. And so the three main things that I'm going to talk about today is how we're delivering AI-ready capabilities across all our products, especially the modern web ones, through toolings that we've been releasing, like AI agent skills, like MCP servers for both APIs and theming. And this is an overarching thing that we did across all of our web products. And now all of them are covered, and you have a single point where you can get AI-ready tooling so that you can use with whatever agents you've already implemented in your development process. Well, number two, I'm going to talk about data UX at enterprise scale. Why? Well, we've been traditionally good at this, right? We deliver data-heavy components that you can use right out of the box to deliver the best user experience to your users, regardless of how large your data is. And so things like major improvements in the grid performance, which span across scrolling, filtering, sorting, has come out in our products over the past 6 months. And I should say, have been testing now a lot over 100,000 records, for example, that you deliver in the browser. We're now spanning our tests all the way up to million records that you deliver, and we make sure that all of our components handle them gracefully and that the user experience that you deliver to your users does not degrade when your data grows larger. And last but not least, modernize without starting over is what we call it, but WPF and WinForms, traditional desktop products, have not fallen down in priority for us. We keep improving them by adding things like more chart features to them. But at the same time, we make sure that if for any reason you need to move your applications from the traditional desktop world into a more modern web stack, you can do that without experiencing any pains. So the transition from WPF and WinForms to Ignite UI, let's say React, is now easier than ever. And by the way, AI agents also help that, and we provide tooling that improves the experience for a developer to do that. All right, so as I said, I'm talking about things that we did over the last 6 months, and those include a lot of releases across a lot of products. So our Ignite UI CLI got a very major update with 15.0, and the very major update is we're shipping our Ignite UI MCP server or Ignite UI CLI MCP server together with it. But not only that, it got new commands, it got improved templates across all of the frameworks that we support, Web Components, React, Angular. all of those templates that we used to have got a refresh. Now they look better, they perform better, they're all updated. And we delivered a lot of AI agent skills that you can surface in your development experience through our CLI. Ignite UI Angular, it keeps getting its regular updates. There have been two major releases that came out since our 21.00. Those are 21.1, 21.2. And by the way, in the pipeline is a 22 release, which will actually come out in one of the very next days. React got a lot of updates, so we have moved all the way from 19.5 to 19.7. We're propagating all of the features for the grid, for example, that Angular has gotten over the last releases. All of those are also available in React, and not only in React, but also in web components. So a lot of major updates there from 7.1 to 7.2. We're very close to releasing 7.3 also, so you can expect that. And we're preparing even new small components for Ignite UI web components, which are then going to be surfaced in Angular, React, and Blazor. And those are components like a color picker, a breadcrumb, a highlighter, and many more. So those are small components that people have been asking about, and we're enhancing the product offering with them as we go. And web components, you know that this is a web standards product. It actually powers our React and Blazor products. So everything that makes it as a component in web components makes it subsequently to React and Blazor. Our Angular component has traditionally always got native Angular components inside, but that's not the case for everything. So for example, the doc manager component is a native web component, and it's getting surfaced in Angular as an Angular native wrapper around the web component that we ship. Blazor is getting a very major update with 26.1. It got all of the components that it was missing from web components, like the query builder, for example. It got all of the major features for the grid, like the PDF exporter, which were also missing in Ignite UI Blazor. And again, last but not least, WPF and WinForms are still getting their major updates so that traditional desktop development is not left behind. So, as I said, the first pillar that we're going to talk about is the AI toolchain. Why? Well, just like everywhere, we use AI, and we're aware that everyone else uses AI. And it's more important than ever to actually enable AI agents to work more efficiently, to do less cycles, to be correct the first time whenever they're using APIs or whenever they have to build something complex. Why is this more important than ever? Because, as you can see, the price tag on using AI and AI credits is going up. And now everyone needs to be aware of, okay, you know what? How much am I really spending when I'm doing agentic work? Because it used to be like almost free, but that's no longer the case. So people need to be aware of that, and they need to take care of how much they are really utilizing the agent and how well they are utilizing it, and whether they're wasting cycles or wasting credits, doing unnecessary things, or making the agent figure things out that it can actually get out of the box when using some AI-enabled tools, okay? And what are those tools? Well, number one, we have agent skills. So agent skills, for anyone who isn't aware what those are, I'm pretty sure everyone in this webinar is, but still I'm going to mention them. Those are basically, text files, right? Those are markdowns that tell the agent or give the agent bigger context for specific scenarios. And when we talk about UI components and libraries that ship UI components, what are those skills telling the agent? Well, they're telling it what components are there, what is the correct way to use them, and what are the different use cases for those components. And then there's a lot of gotchas, right? So even things that kind of become clear from documentation, you still need to play around with the agent and figure out, okay, I I am seeing these scenarios that the agent is actually not performing very well, even though I know exactly what it needs to do. And we provide those gotchas to the agents upfront so that they don't run into multiple cycles of figuring something relatively simple. Number two and number three are our two MCP servers. Okay, so the first one ships with the Ignite UI CLI, and this MCP server basically tells agents exactly what the correct APIs and use cases for each and every component that we have are. And that covers every framework that we have for modern web: Angular, React, Web Components, and Blazor. So right, what happens after you enable the MCP server in your agentic development is it no longer needs to go out and search the web to determine certain API for a component, or it no longer needs to determine by memory or searching the web what is the component stack that it has access to. It gets provided the necessary use cases, and it knows what and when to use. And third, the theming MCP. That gets shipped with our Ignite UI theming package, which is actually a dependency of each of the major frameworks that we ship: Angular, React, Web Components, and Blazor. And this theming engine surfaces our design system across all of the frameworks, and it also provides you with an easy way to basically make drastic changes to the UI and retheme everything to the look and feel that you need to present from your business, right? So it no longer is about, okay, there are these pre-built themes, which one is the closest to what I'm looking for. Everything is fully customizable through the theming engine. And then that's also surfaced to agents, so that agents have access to all of the APIs and the CSS custom properties that our theming engine surfaces. And it can basically do all of the work for you with basic prompts. So you tell it, this is the color scheme that we need to follow, and the typography, and then some niche things like elevations or sizing, or how rounded the corners are for your UIs. And the agent goes and asks the theming MCP server, okay, how is it done with Ignite UI theming? And the theming MCP server gives it the necessary design tokens so that it can configure everything. And this is the cycle. So the client prompts an agent to do some work on an application. The agent looks through the agent skills, the MCP servers, determines what is the best way to do something, and single pass, you actually get working results. Instead of having the agent to do multiple passes to invent APIs, then discover that those are wrong, then look for what is wrong, and then to correct it if it can, and eventually to get to something working, or maybe halfway working. Right, so how does this work? Well, basically, as I said, in the CLI, which is fired up here, we have surfaced commands so that you can actually bring in all of our configurations in an empty folder. With this command, which is our AI-config command on the CLI, has brought in MCP server configuration for VS Code here, as well as some agent skills. Those agent skills are for Angular. This is what we've selected as framework. And now, even from the empty folder, we can actually start working with an agent. And we prompt it for an application. And then it goes and discovers, these are the skills and the tools that I have. It discovered the CLI MCP, and it discovered that it can actually scaffold a project using the Ignite UI CLI. So it read the tool. The tool told it exactly what it needs to execute in order to scaffold the project. And so it continues by not inventing how to scaffold an Angular project from scratch and then coming up with all of the files, but actually it's now using a built-in tool directly in order to do that. And as you can see, because it fired up a command that actually asks a walkthrough for configuring MCP and agent skills, it even prompted that UI for the agent workflow. In this case, we didn't need that, but it continued with scaffolding the healthcare application that it was asked for in the prompt, and it continues to do work. And by the way, you can see that this is not sped up a lot. It's doing work pretty fast, and on each turn, it's actually asking a different tool, like the Ignite UI theming MCP server. Oops, sorry. Okay, I think, somewhere around here. Yep. I apologize because I clicked something and I totally skipped over my video. So as I was saying, I'm going back to it. It is executing the CLI command here and scaffolding the application with it. But afterwards, when the scaffold is done, it will keep asking the other tools that we have on what the correct way to do each and every subsequent task is. So, as I said, here it's asking the theming MCP server on how do I create the theme, right? And it went through the theming. The MCP server told it, this is how you do theming. And it wrote the correct thing. And it doesn't need to do multiple iterations anymore and waste a lot of tokens. And this is, by the way, the finished app. So this is a one-pass app, no reprompts, no fixes. Of course, it's not perfect, but it's actually accomplishing the task that it needed to. It has a theme. It correctly uses each and every component. It runs, and it is what we asked for. Then we can keep iterating on top of this app, and actually we can improve it a lot further, again, using the tooling. So I mentioned there is this command that you can bring in all of the configurations for skills and for the MCPs into your project. And it's this AI config command on our Ignite UI CLI. So the CLI right now is your configuration hub. When I was showing the skills earlier in an earlier webinar, it was basically you had to do some manual work, right? In order to bring them in, you either had to use some external tool to copy them over, or you basically had to copy them by hand. Right now, this is all automated, and the Ignite UI CLI brings them in every time. And not only that, you can use it to configure first time, but also whenever you want to update with the latest updates that we have to skills, you can still use the same command to do that. And you update your Ignite UI CLI, you invoke the AI config command again, and you get the updated skills. And if there are any updates to the MCP configurations, you're going to get that too. So what are the types of skills that we have? Well, one here that is mentioned is the generate from image. That is relatively new. We're also currently working on a specific skill to generate from a Figma design. The generate from image skill also works on a Figma design, but we wanted a more focused one, which is actually reading better all of the design tokens that Figma provides, instead of actually doing the shorthand, which is kind of happening with a lot of Figma designs at the moment in a lot of tooling. The shorthand is it opens the design, takes a screenshot, and basically works with generating from image, which discards all of the tokens that a Figma design can provide you. And since we had a webinar a few months back showing the CLI MCP, at the time, we were saying that the CLI MCP covers Angular, React, and web components, but it doesn't cover Blazor. As of 15.2, the CLI also fully covers Ignite UI Blazor. So now all of our major products are actually covered under this MCP tooling, and you can do exactly the same things regardless of which framework you've chosen to build your applications in with our CLI and with our libraries. All right, so let's look at something what happens when you don't use the MCP and what happens when you use it. So this app right here is built without the MCP. It's kind of consistent, but it really isn't, because you will notice that, for example, the date editors are actually not consistent with the other components. Those are built-in browser input type date, and they look different. They do not fit well. Also, the theming is kind of inconsistent. Those headers on the grid are, yeah, they're popping out, but they don't look like the rest of the app. So they're kind of a little bit out of place. Now let's look at what happens when you use the MCP. So this is the same app. It has gone through the same path, but it actually is a lot more consistent in terms of UI, in terms of component usage, and in terms of overall theming. So that is the difference. Not that agents cannot use Ignite UI for Angular or Ignite UI for React or Ignite UI for Blazor. By the way, both of these apps are Blazor apps. It's that they can use them, but it goes only so far. And they may discover certain things and not discover others, which causes inconsistencies. Okay. And it actually causes more token usage over time if you don't use the tooling. So you're going to say, okay, you know what? But all of this tooling is actually increasing my context window, which means it's more expensive to use tooling like skills or MCP servers in order to build apps. And this is absolutely correct. The context window does grow by a fixed size, right? Because, well, first of all, agents use only things that they discover they need into their context, but even those they need increase their context. And let's say that the context window is growing by 10% just by including the tools. But what is the outcome of this? The outcome is you have a fixed size increase into the context window, but you have fewer cycles and you have a significant decrease on the output cost. Why? Because by using those tools, the agents know correctly how to use components, do not figure out where to write their own components for certain scenarios or produce more code. They actually use things out of the box. As a result of this, first of all, the sessions are faster. And second, the more iterations that you do on a session, the less tokens you're using because of the tooling that is in place. Maintenance is easier. The apps are more maintainable because they use not custom components for every scenario, but a unified library, but also output tokens. Output tokens are the most expensive thing in the AI agent usage. And side by side, two applications right here, and we recorded them with the same execution time. But the first one is adding over 1,600 changes to the repository that it's working on. The second one is finished with less than 500. So the output tokens that are used and generated by the first scenario, which is not using the MCP and the skills, is actually more than 3 times more. Okay, so this is a significant increase in the cost when you don't use them. And again, it's maintainability as well, because apps that do not use any components are very hard to maintain. And especially if you have multiple views with tables, if you then ask an agent, okay, you know what, I want all of these tables to have a major UX change for look and feel or for performance, it needs to go and do an individual change on every single one of them. Well, when using, for example, a grid, a theming change is basically a 1 or 2 line changes, and it figures this out really quickly by just asking an AI agent, which then asks the Ignite UI theming MCP, how is this done? Okay, so I started talking about grids. Let's move on over to this other pillar, which is, okay, we keep providing the best data UX to our customers. So grids are the most data heavy component alongside charts, which is used in any application on an enterprise scale. But actually, even non-enterprise applications resort to grids in a lot of cases. You need to show tabular data, and that tabular data grows over time. And you need the right component for this because as your data grows, a simple HTML table cannot handle the changes. So with the releases over the past 6 months, we have improved the frames per second for scrolling on the grid by a significant amount. The total blocking time is reduced. We have released a couple of blogs about the grid performance improvements that we've done, which are all accessible through blogs.infragistics.com. And I advise you to go and look at them. We actually even talk about the deep engineering effort that we did on this with what we've changed architecture-wise, what we have implemented in terms of algorithmic changes in order to achieve better performance on both grid virtualization and scrolling and sorting and filtering. So all of the data heavy operations that users use all the time have been improved significantly. And again, this is happening for grids with up to 1 million records in them. This change affects all of our grids, so flat, tree, hierarchical, pivot. But we also released a new grid which enables more users. So yeah, we have the data heavy enterprise grids. We've had them for a long time. We have them across all of our products, but we didn't have a lightweight open source grid, and we released one. That's called Grid Lite. It does not have the same enterprise heavy feature set, but it has the sufficient amount for you to start working with it. And by the way, when you work with the Grid Lite, it will fulfill a lot of scenarios that you have. But if you, at some point you have the need to move to a more performant grid, which is for a lot heavier data scenarios, you've reached the limit on a Grid Lite, we provide a seamless path for you to upgrade from one to another. And the Grid Lite covers all of the same pillars that our other grids have, has the same UX, follows the same design system so that the look and feel, if you want to move from one to another, remains intact. Nothing gets changed. Basically, your end users would never know. All right. I want to mention some highlights on all of the major web frameworks that we've had over the past 6 months through different releases. You're going to see in all of them, there is this point about agent skills. All of the frameworks got specific agent skills. This is required because agents need to do different things when they work with different frameworks. It doesn't matter that under the hood there is the same design system and components have the same APIs. They do, but there are niche things across different frameworks that the agents need to be aware of in order to do everything right. And the overarching, actually the underarching in this slide thing, is the MCP servers, as I already talked about. So the MCP servers, I already mentioned, cover all of the web products. No framework is left behind anymore because Blazor was a little bit behind a couple of months back. Now there is parity across everything. And again, the desktop products are not left behind. So the desktop products, especially WPF and Windows Forms, keep getting consistent updates. Charting gets updated a lot in all of those. But not only that, we do release minor features or enhancements, or not so minor in some cases, across most of the components or all of the components that are shipped with those products. And by the way, once again, I'm going to mention, if you want for some reason to move a desktop product to web, this is not an impossible task as it used to be, because right now agent skills and MCP servers allow us to easily transition a desktop application to a web application using our Ignite UI products. So I mentioned previously, there is the generate from image skill. We have tested multiple scenarios where when you start from an image from a desktop application, you actually get amazing results almost from the first pass. It's actually in a lot of cases from the first pass to get almost exactly the same look and feel that you've had in the desktop application on web with our modern components. Now, before I go to my last slide, I want to do something, live on this webinar. So, as of 2 webinars ago, I abstain from doing live AI demos, but today I may try to do something like that. And why I do that is because when I do these webinars, it's usually the peak time for AI usage. So AI agents are very AI services, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, they are all very overloaded at this time of day because it's the morning US time. Everyone is already up and everyone is actually prompting agents. But let me show you an application that I have built from scratch using an AI agent. And today I showed something about Angular, which was the first video of how the MCPs work with an agent. I showed a video of comparison of Blazor applications with and without the MCP servers. So right here, I have actually opened the React application that I have generated using an agent. And it's a full stack application. I have asked an agent to generate both a front end and a back end, and this is a financial application that I'm building. So let me go into the front end and let's run this thing so you guys can get a feel of what exactly it looks like and what it does. So I'm going to do an npm run dev right here. And it's running. I have my backend already running, yes, which is the project in this other backend folder. And let me open this up right here. Actually, you know what? I can open it directly from here. I want it in the browser. Okay, I actually have it open right here. Okay, so I'm presented with the login screen, and it says that this is an AI-powered investment signals application. And let me log in because I said that this one actually has a backend. And by the way, I did built in social media connectors and Microsoft connectors for this one so that it's a fully featured application. And I'm logged in now and I'm seeing a dashboard for portfolio performance. Once again, this is all AI generated. I used an agent. 99% of the code in this application is actually generated with an agent, and it uses Ignite UI React and our charts and our grids, lists, and so on and so forth. Even badges and all the small components. The application is supposed to allow users to track a portfolio performance and receive AI generated signals for investments on top of the portfolios that they have, as well as across the entire market for stocks and crypto so that they can react to those signals and keep track of what's happening. So I have a portfolio view here. This is the Ignite UI for React grid. It's again, the agent did all of this by itself. It themed it by itself. It themed the entire application by itself, and everything is functional. I can, modify my portfolio, and let's say that my SpaceX stock actually bought 60 shares, not 50, and it does that. By the way, I even connected this application to a service where I can get live prices and, I can extract live tickers. So I can, for example, go right here and from a dialog, I can add, let's say, Apple, and it will give me, the Apple stock, and it will give me a current price for it. So Again, 99% of the code right here is AI generated with an agent using our agent skills, our MCP server, and our components. So it all looks good. And I said this is an application for signals. But right here, I was testing with this account a month back, and I asked the agent to build an application with a trial period. Right here, it says that my subscription has expired because I put a 14-day trial period. And so right now, this view is not showing me any signals, right? Still showing me transactions that I have recorded, and then sectors. By the way, if you're so interested in what the signals view looks like, it's cards with signals on different investments that you can execute on. But let's do something. So right here, I have built a module so you can subscribe after your trial period has ran over. And there is this plan, which is Signal F Pro for $29.99 a month. But I want this application to surface two plans, one for Pro and one for Ultimate. And I want the Pro plan to actually have limited number of signals. So let's say I get at most 2 a day or 3 a day. And then the Ultimate subscription would surface unlimited signals. All right, so traditionally, I would have to go open my backend and front end and start, first of all, designing what this would look like in terms of data that I store. And second, implement the front end and the back end. But right here, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I haven't updated this application in a while. I'm going to launch a new terminal, and I want to update my skills. And if there are any updates to the MCP service, I want to do that also. So let's see. I have Ignite UI CLI installed. Let's check what version do I have locally. It's the latest. It's 15.3.0. And what I'm going to do is let's bring in some updates for React. Okay. And it's going to ask me, okay, you know what agents are you using? Let's say I'm using Claude right here, and I want .mcp.json at the root for the MCP configuration, and voila, I have an update, okay? And right here, I can see all of the updates that were brought in. And I can even see the deltas of what exactly changed because I have this is a Git repository, so I see all of the changes in the files. And as you can see, yeah, I did have outdated skills, right? These skills that it brought in actually have more things. Some of them have left less things because they have been optimized. So I have everything updated at the moment. But okay, so now let's do some work. Okay, so right here, what I'm going to do is tell the agent, currently there is only one subscription plan, Pro, which gives access to unlimited signals. I want 2 subscription plans. Pro and Ultimate, where Pro gives access to 2 signals a day, and Ultimate gives access to unlimited signals. The Pro plan, the Ultimate plan would be 99 a month. Okay, so I'm not telling the agent what to implement, how to implement. I'm just saying what change I want from a business perspective to my app. Okay, and it's working now. And as you can see, it's starting MCP servers now. So it's figuring out what it has access to. It's going to analyze and look through all of the skills that it has access to, and is going to start doing work. And ultimately, I should receive an improved UI where I can subscribe with two different plans, and the Pro plan is downgraded to give me a more limited number of signals a day. Of course, it started working from the back end first because it needs to update the actual implementation where we subscribe and the way we can pay for it and so on and so forth. And then it's going to update the front end. So while it's doing work, I just have one more slide at the end. We're almost out of time. I can actually take some questions, if there are any, in chat while this is working to answer them. And then we're going to check back on the result. So let me see. I don't see anything right here in the chat, but are there any questions from anyone that I can answer online, live? Anyone else from the panelists can help me? Guys, we don't have anything?
Constantine, we have one question from the audience. It's in the Q&A. You can check that.
Okay. It's in the Q&A. Oh, okay. With converting, is there anything within the MCP server to assist AI with converting or porting projects, say from Windows Forms to Ignite UI? Yes, there is. So at the moment, you can do it two ways. It actually depends on how large the WinForms project is. Or so if it's very large, then giving it the code, giving an AI agent the code directly would be an overkill because it wouldn't be able to build a good enough context window or to read it all at once. It will have to do it in pieces. My recommendation in this would be start porting it visually and then port the backend logic by, first of all, providing screenshots of the UI or designs of the UI to an agent in order to rebuild the UI. And then you provided the code for the backend logic in order for all of the backend logic to be built. So I can explain the CLI. Basically, it's a command line interface. You install it through npm. I can actually do it here while things are going. So I'll do a global install. It lives on npm.js. It's publicly available. It is open source. And basically, this is how you get it. You npm install globally or locally in your project, the Ignite UI CLI. Yeah, I assume that is going to be the case for the WinForms app. So best case right now, and we've actually tried to do that on several applications, and it works very well, is we provide an agent with a series of UI screenshots from the app, and we tell it what technology we want it ported. We want this application ported to. The best way at the moment in order to avoid unnecessary cycles would be to scaffold an empty project with our CLI in order to not start from an empty repository, or to bring in the skills in MCP so that the agent knows all of the CLI commands for scaffolding repositories, like I showed in that video where it did it. It used the CLI commands to scaffold the repository, and then it will start working. Would it be for a very large application? Would it be a single pass thing? Absolutely not, I think, because context windows for AI agents are limited. And for large apps, you cannot fit everything into one context window. But the UI stack can be brought into a web technology to a pretty good degree on a single pass. Again, if you provide screenshots of what the UI looks like. So about the CLI again, you see right here, I just installed it globally. This is how you bring it in. And then the shorthand command is IG. And when you type IG, there's actually a walkthrough. It directly gets you to a project creation step. So if you haven't worked with it, this is how you get started. Try it out, see what it will scaffold for you. It's actually the tool of choice for you to scaffold any application. It will let you choose a framework. It will let you choose, you know, what type of project template you want to use, and so on and so forth. And when you scaffold a project with the Ignite UI CLI, by the way, all of the AI tools get brought in out of the box. So you get the skills for the related framework, and you also get the MCP configurations in the scaffolded project. All right, so right here, uh, as I said, I really dislike doing AI demos at this time of day because services are a lot slower than usual. But hopefully, this will finish in the next few seconds so that I can show you the result of what it did. Okay. Uh, oh, it's looking at file lock issues. Why? I don't know. Ah, because it's rebuilding the backend and actually have the backend running. But uh anyway, so let me close the with the last slide. And before we go, I am going to come back to this. Oh, actually, you know what? This thing got to the subscriptions page TSX. So it's doing an update at the moment on the front end. It actually has performed an update. Oh, okay. It's giving me a report. All right. Now, there it is, precisely on time. So I have refreshed I have a refreshed page right here. And when I get to subscriptions, it now has a Signal F Pro subscription with two AI powered daily signals and a Signal F Ultimate subscription at 99.99 a month, which has unlimited AI powered daily signals. And I can go ahead and subscribe. And of course, this is still not implemented with the payment provider, but you saw as I was delivering the application, we actually added the feature. And this is our button, and this is our card, and it's the best value plan. But this is how easy it is. I am talking over a webinar, and at the same time, we get new features in the product. So before we go, one last slide. Let me wrap up the 26.1. Again, I'm going to go over the three pillars: fully agentic AI support through the skills in an MCP servers that we've shipped, an optimal data UX, and then continued investment on in our desktop products, as well as a good path for you to upgrade to a modern web product as long as you need this. And so that was it from me. Thank you everyone for staying with me. And go ahead and install the CLI and install our skills and MCP service and start tasking your AI agents with building the new features for your applications.